Good evening, USC Trojan family. Welcome to our webinar entitled Taking the Anxiety Out of Networking. My name is Lori Shreve Blake, and I'm the Senior Director for Career Engagement at the USC Career Center. It is now my pleasure to introduce our esteemed alumni experts and panelists. Our first expert is Matt Berndt. At Indeed, Matt is the Senior Manager of Job Seeker Experience and head of the Job Search Academy, a job search advocacy and education program to help job seekers get the jobs and manage their careers. Before joining Indeed, Matt worked in college and university career services at USC, fight on, the University of Texas, Austin, and St. Edward's University. He has been helping people get jobs for nearly 30 years and is an alumnus of the USC Annenberg School of Communication and Journalism. Christy Connor. Christy is the author of The Confident Connector, How to Build Your Must-Have Network in an Era of Job Insecurity. She is a co-organizer of Friday Coffee Meetup, the largest active entrepreneurial and tech innovation group in Los Angeles with over 7,000 members. She is a driver of Greater LA's innovative technology arena and a proud alumna of the USC Dornsife College of Letters, Arts, and Sciences. Please join me in giving a warm virtual welcome to our esteemed panelists, Matt and Christy. So we're going to start with Christy and ask her the first question, which is, how do you define networking, Christy?
I'm so glad that you asked that. I actually like to define networking and connecting because I kind of see them as two separate things. And what I find the difference between networking and connecting is that networking is an activity that we undertake to meet new people. But connecting is what happens between individuals when we really listen and communicate and are vulnerable.
Wonderful, wonderful. And that was such a great, succinct answer. I'm going to also ask that question of Matt. How do you define networking?
You know, in a similar fashion, I really look at networking as a relationship building. Too many folks will think of networking as sort of a tactical activity that you do, and you meet someone and you will never see them again, when ultimately what you're hoping to do is connect with people who can be resources to you and to whom you can be a resource over the course of your entire career. So it's the beginning of relationships that you can establish. And I think when you approach it that way, you're really coloring your whole intent as you start down this process of trying to grow and develop your personal and professional network and be a resource and see it as a resource as well.
And I like what you said, Matt, too, about be a resource and see it as a resource. That networking is not just take, but it's how the two people can have a symbiotic relationship and help each other out along the way. And I guess we never stop networking. We're continually, as professional people and as human beings that want to connect with other human beings, be it professionally or personally or what have you, we want to continue to expand our network and meet new people. So with that, I know there are extroverts and there are introverts. And so this next question is for Matt. Matt, what advice do you give to alumni who are more introverted and may struggle with networking?
You know, networking, just the concept of it can be overwhelming. It can cause anxiety because we build up these expectations about what it's supposed to be and what we have to do to be ready to start networking. When in reality, right now, every time you sit down in a class and you start talking to your classmates, or you visit with professors, or you go to a party or a cookout and you're interacting with friends or parents of friends or friends of parents or something like that, you are actually networking. You are connecting with people. And then the networking part of it is when you take that to the next level and you try and learn from it. So big important takeaway first is to manage your expectations so you don't psych yourself out. Now, it can be really difficult for people who are unlike me. I've never met a microphone I didn't like. I was born shaking hands, I think, and exchanging business cards back in the day. But I know that's not normal, and most people don't approach things that way. First step is practice on people you know and who know you. Okay. They already want to see you be successful. So they're going to be easy targets to make your best mistakes with. Okay. Do that. You make your best mistakes when the fewest number of people are watching or listening and the least amount of stuff is on the line. So ask them so that you can develop your skills in having a networking conversation. Then you really have to go in and be prepared. You have to know what it is you are trying to accomplish. And I think too many people will think networking is going in and immediately asking someone for a job or for an internship or for contacts that they have, when in reality, you shouldn't even think about asking those questions until you have already established that you want this person's help. You might find out during the course of a conversation that you'd really rather not carry part of that person's reputation with you into other instances. It can happen. But you also want to ask those questions when they've had a chance to get to know you. And they know what they're doing if they're investing some of their reputation in you. So if you manage your questions and they're not got any jobs, but what is it like to work here? What brought you into your career? What are the challenges that you face? If you want to work in, if they work in management, you aspire to that. What are some of the greatest challenges in management? What does your company look for? Look, they already know why you're reaching out to them. You don't have to start with that. Ask those questions that will help you understand their role and how they got there better, and will give you the opportunity to answer questions that they might have of your background. At the end of a conversation like that, you're in a good position to say, hey, this is a really interesting company. Do you hire people directly out of school? And if you do, what are you looking for? Or do you hire people that are in my field? And if so, for what types of roles? Would you be willing to refer me to someone in that hiring organization? Or when do you expect those hirings? Would you refer me for the role? Or would you be willing to refer me to friends and colleagues of yours at other companies who are doing the same thing? Because your work fascinates me and I'd like to learn more about it. Then they're in a position to really understand what's going to happen if they refer you. People like to see people they like succeed. Give them a chance to like you, and they will refer you on because they're going to look good if they refer somebody. Like if I refer you and you turn out to be a rock star, I look like a rock star for having referred you. But the flip side of that is, if I refer you and you turn out to be a bumpkin, they're going to forget about you, but they're going to remember that I referred you. And every referral that I make after that is going to be shaded by that experience. So manage your expectations, practice on people you know, set up your questions, and then define the parameters. Look for a 30-minute call. Just that. What are you trying to get out of the call? Is it information? Is it another referral? Give yourself milestones that you can achieve so that gives you permission to say the call is over. It's all about managing your expectations and preparing.
Thank you for that, Matt. And I think another piece of that is you're referring people over, and you, as you said, you don't want your reputation marred by that. And so it's really important too that whether you're a job seeker or you're just looking to expand your network, that you have some clear direction where you want to go. Being a career coach, I meet people who have 5 different directions they want to go. But when you're talking to that person, you need to be persuasive and say, this is what I'm looking for. And then I agree with you, the likability piece. And a lot of times we call that informational interviewing, and a key question that we ask is there anybody else you recommend that I speak with? Because one person leads to the next person leads to the job, to your point. I want to also circle back with Christy on that question. So I'm an introvert and I attend my professional association's networking event. How shall I tackle that with 100 people in the room, Christy, just as a follow-up?
Yes, actually, I am a shy introvert. I think I'm probably the opposite of Matt. So for me, I really had to learn how to control kind of that anxiety, the social anxiety. When I would come into a room and meet someone new, all of the blood would kind of rush out of my head and I would get a little paralyzed. So I actually came up with a canned set of questions and answers that I memorized, and I would like practice before I went into the event, so that when I walked in, I would have something to start off the conversation just to get it going. Once it got going, I was okay. But that was important to me. And also just having some mindfulness around my physiological reactions when I'm in a big room of people. It can be overwhelming. So I know to take a moment of mindfulness before I step into the room, just kind of close my eyes, take a deep breath, then go into the room. If I'm in the room and I'm starting to feel overwhelmed, I actually escape to the ladies' room. I'm not recommending everybody hide in there all the time, but if you're feeling overwhelmed, take a minute or go outside, take a deep breath, and then come back in when you're ready to reconnect with people. So understanding about yourself and how you react as either as an extrovert or as an introvert, and reflecting on that, I think is important. And then finding some tools to help you manage that experience when you're in the room with people.
I appreciate all of those recommendations, Christy, and also look for the friendly faces in the room, right? Or somebody who may not be speaking with anyone at the time. And the other thing is 9 times out of 10, everybody, even extroverts feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know anybody in this room. I think all of us feel that a little bit. And so practice and managing ourselves, I think is great advice. So thank you, Christy, for that. So my next question is for both Matt and Christy. And I guess we'll start with Christy. What are the top 3 tips for successful networking that you tell your clients?
I really think, when you come into this, you are leading with a spirit of generosity. I find, connecting with others is a pay it forward model. You're there to really see what you can do for other people. It's not about coming in and selling yourself. It is for you to come in and see, how you can help people, basically. So that's one tip. Mm-hmm. The second thing is really focusing on your listening. Sometimes we want to express ourselves, we want to get our point across, but really it's about listening to the other person and what they're trying to communicate to you, and seeing it. Matt talked a little bit about them taking you along the path with them. And so listening and kind of like listening for the next question to come up. Don't be thinking in your head, okay, wait, what am I going to ask next? What am I going to ask next? Try and really listen to them, observe what's going on, and then come up with your next question so that it's really receptive listening. And then the third thing I think is really important is figuring out when you come into this situation, what you can give to others. And for me, it took me a little bit to figure out what that is. And that could be, if you're great at sales, maybe you could tell them a little bit, give them some recommendations around how to sell. For me, it was connecting them to other people, reviewing resumes, helping them in a job search, because I've been through that a few times. So thinking about what it is, it could be business processes, refinement, I do that as well. But for each person, when you go into a situation, think of some things that you could offer to the other person. And it might not be related to your work, it might be a special skill that you have. So those are my 3 things that I think really help you be successful at networking, and it makes people want to connect with you.
Excellent. Matt?
All right. Well, I've got to come up with an extra one now because Christy already took my pay it forward. Because honestly, that is so important. Listen, everyone who you are networking with and you're developing relationships with has been on your side of the table before. They've all had to try and start a network, begin an awkward conversation. They have been there before. And what you want is exactly what they wanted back then, which is a smiling face, a willing ear, and a helpful voice. And so when time comes for someone to reach out to you for your assistance, you darn well better be the person that you want them to be to you. And that's really what paying it forward is all about. But that's after you've networked and now people are looking to you for assistance. When it comes to your stuff, one of my first things is be prepared, do your research, and write down your questions. Know going in what you want to learn out of the networking experience or the informational interview that you're going to have. Maybe you aren't certain what you want to do and you want to use your networking to figure that out. Maybe, hypothetically, you'd say, I don't know if I want to work in the not-for-profit world or if I want to work in the corporate sector. Maybe you're talking to people who have worked in both of those worlds or do, and part of your conversation is, I'm really trying to understand where I'm going to belong. I know it's in the corporate sector or it might be in the not-for-profit sector. Tell me about your experience, if you would be so kind. there you're asking for your advice. And that's the second piece, is leverage the advice that you can get. Don't ask those close-ended questions that lead to yes or no answers or that sort of a thing, but look at it as an opportunity to gather advice. And then it's like a treasure hunt. And who doesn't like a good treasure hunt when you're getting information that's going to be beneficial? And don't ask for help too early in the conversation. I mentioned this earlier, but if you begin the conversation with, y'all got any jobs available? Or I got any internships? The first gut reaction is, well, you should probably look at our corporate website because they'll have everything that's listed. And what they're actually saying is, I don't know you well enough to give you anything other than the corporate answer about opportunities with our company because I'm not vested in you yet. Give them the opportunity to get invested in you as a person before you ask for help. And that's a good payoff strategy. And it also gets you out of that awkward situation of asking for assistance from someone who you discovered during the course of the conversations you really don't want the assistance of in the first place.
That's great advice, both Christy and Matt. And I loved, Matt, you mentioned the research piece. And, we can all Google people now. So I think getting to know the person you're going to actually have an informational interview with, I think is really important too. And letting that person talk about themselves. The first question out, like you said, Matt, shouldn't be, do you have a job? Do you have an internship? But get to know that person. What's that person's favorite subject? Themselves. So actually letting them kind of share their life and their career, what their professional career, and taking some time to get to know them before you move into your own agenda, I think is great. So thank you both for those sage pieces of advice as it relates to networking tips.
Yeah. Push that ego button. That's not a bad thing, because we all love being thought that, oh, we're a subject matter expert in something, and they want my advice. I must be. That makes people feel good. Making people feel good about themselves goes a long way.
It really does. So our next question is for Matt, and it is, what are some effective strategies for following up after making the connection? So they like you. You've done your research on the person. You let them talk about their favorite subject themselves. You've asked really great questions. You didn't ask, do you have a job? You did your research. The person, you even got the stamp of approval. I like you, and I might refer you on to the next person. Maybe you got an email or a referral while you were sitting with that person, either in Zoom or in their office. So what does the follow-up look like after that, Matt?
Well, it looks like follow-up. And what it is fulfill the promises that you made to that person based upon the information that you requested. If they gave you 3 good referrals, follow up professionally on each of those referrals and keep them in the loop on the progress that you made. Let's say they referred you to a person, and that person took your interview and you visited with them and it was a great conversation. Write back or contact that original person who referred you and let them know what a positive experience that was, and give them the chance to hear that you're thankful for it at that point in time and become a part of your life. Ultimately, keep these people a part of your life because they are now. They're a relationship that you have. You don't have to, set a schedule for this. I need to call Mary every 3 weeks or something of that sort. You may have tickler files that help you move forward, but the more you get to know people, when you see things in the news that happened at their company or in their organization that caught your attention, shoot them a note via LinkedIn or via Facebook, whatever, or however you connect with them, and say, hey, I saw you all just won this great account. I'm so happy for you. It shows them that you're thinking of them even when you're not looking for something from them. When you see something that you can offer to them that would be valuable or helpful to them, give that to them and be helpful. It's maintain the nature of the relationship as you move forward is the greatest strategy that you can use. And I'll be honest with you, I have people that are still in my network who I might talk to once a year, once every couple of few years, but we'll drop a note here or there just to make sure that we're each aware of what's going on. And it's like it's like no time passed at all. And we've gotten together and we will help each other out. You just want to make sure you're maintaining those contacts. And the little things are the things that count when you're trying to maintain those relationships moving along forward.
Yes, and now we're hitting the holidays, so this is a great time if you haven't spoken with one of your networking contacts to say Happy Thanksgiving or Happy Holidays or Happy New Year. It's a good time to reconnect with some of those networking contacts that you have. Now, I'm going to touch on this briefly, and it has to do, a byproduct of networking is that one can sometimes find a mentor. And I want to ask briefly, I'll start with Christy. In an informational interview or when you're networking, are you bringing up, will you be my mentor? Because I've seen that happen.
I think it depends. Sometimes you meet someone and you can hit it off and just really have a connection with someone. I think, to ask somebody to be a mentor to you is an investment. So being careful with asking that and understanding what you're looking to get from it. If that's something you're going to ask, prepare to, set your expectations about what you're looking for, what their expectations might be within that relationship. And then even a mentoring relationship, you are giving to one another, right? So trying to think of ways that you can also help your mentor, and so that the learning can be two-way. I would say maybe wait a little while till you get to know them better. But maybe on the off chance, every once in a while, something magical happens and it comes to bear. But I would say get to know one another, invest in them from your own spirit and your own work, and then build that relationship. And once you have a relationship, then I feel like it feels a little more appropriate to ask them.
That's excellent advice, Christy. Matt, what say you about broaching that topic?
I was reflecting on this as Christy was speaking about my own mentors, and it occurs to me that I've never actually asked anyone who is my mentor to formally be my mentor. I've gotten to know them, and I said, you know what, I'd like to let's just catch lunch, or can we, every few months, I'll buy this time, you buy next time. Sometimes that works. Or, hey, I'd like to reach out to you periodically when I've got some questions, and I'd encourage you to do the same. Just let the relationship build naturally, and they evolve into mentor-mentee relationships, whether you slap that label on them or not. And some will be long-term and some will be short-term. The label mentor sort of often has expectations that are built upon it, even when it's asked. It's like, will you be my mentor? It's, wow, that's a lot of responsibility. I don't know that I want to take that much responsibility for you in your life, but hey, I'd like to seek your advice every once in a while and see where this goes, because the best mentor-mentee relationships really develop organically. It's hard. I've tried to build at mentoring programs over the course of my career where you're trying to identify people who are willing to be mentors and people who want to be mentees, and trying to find good matches. It's like trying to be a matchmaker, and it doesn't work all that well very often. But the best mentor-mentee relationships evolve organically. And to do that, you've got to put yourself in a position to have experience these connections with people that you can then follow up and develop a more trusting relationship. To me, the most important thing is your parents cannot be a mentor to you. Your spouse cannot be, in my book at least, because anyone who knows you or is related to you has a vested interest in the decisions that you make. And a good mentor does not. They can be directly honest with you, and what you do is not going to materially impact them emotionally, financially, or otherwise. They're there just to give you good objective advice. And as wonderful as they are, parents aren't able to do that. I'm not able to do that with my daughter. So it's just not going to happen. So look for mentors who are that sort of level of detachment from you, where they can offer you good advice and challenge you when you need to be challenged, and support you when you need to be supported, where a parent or a spouse might not be able to do that for you.
I appreciate both of that advice, because that does come up in the, in the networking kind of conversation, and we need to kind of know when it's appropriate, when it's not. And I recently saw something that said mentors they pick their mentees. So it's not necessarily sometimes the organic piece that you were talking about, Matt. It's not necessarily, oh, hi, Matt, will you be my mentor? But it's more like you're going to pick. In looking at your whole life, if I'm going to pick one or two, you'll pick those people kind of yourself. So
that's that next step in sort of the relationship building part of this, is that people who like you want to see you be successful, And then people who really like you take a vested personal interest in helping you be successful and want to take a guiding hand. And when they see potential in you, they want to help you realize that potential. And I would need more than just my two hands to count the number of times I've said to former students or advisees of mine or former employees of mine, I've said, listen, I want to help you advance because you've got potential that I see. And I want to be able to look at you on LinkedIn in 10 years and say, I knew him or I knew her back then, and I had a hand in coaching her in that direction. I think you're 100% spot on right about that.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for that. And so our next question is, and this is for both Christy and Matt, we'll start with Christy. What does successful networking look like now that we've had the pandemic, we're virtual, we're in person, you know, the lines collide. What does it look like both online, virtual, in person, and within someone's current employer or organization? And Christy?
So I think many of the things remain the same across those avenues, whether it's online or virtual, in person, or within your career, right? You need to prepare, have that generosity, you need to follow up, you need to listen well. Those things all to say the same, but how you do them might be a little different. So to be successful in maybe the online virtual area, you're going to have to test out different things, right? You have some technology that you need to make work right. Your lighting, you listen in a different way because you can't see all the factors around you that you can when you're in person. And it's a different opportunity for us to give, right? I think connecting, it gives us a new venue for connecting. So it's a great opportunity as well if you are a shy introvert. I feel like online and virtual is a great stepping stone. You try that out a little bit, and then you can kind of move out to the in-person once you get comfortable with that. So I feel like online and virtual can provide a bigger expanded venue, right? Because it can be global that you're working or connecting with. And then also I think it's helpful for the introverts and the shy people as well to kind of get out there. And then for in-person, I think there's a great opportunity in your research when you're finding somebody that you really want to meet in person. I feel like you can make a beeline for them much easier at an in-person event than maybe you can on a virtual networking. Because say we're all on a screen for the virtual networking, it's a little bit hard to have that one-on-one chat perhaps, and find that person that you're really looking to have. So I think with in-person, you can really focus in on a few individuals and focus on meeting them and having that in-person relationship. I also think that in-person is that great opportunity to practice kind of that social interaction piece where I'm learning how to manage my social interactions and my emotions. And then for the third piece of the career development, I really believe that networking is part of your career development. You kind of have your professional development, your career strategy, which is kind of you climbing the ladder, your professional development, which is your learning. And the third pillar of that is really your network development. And within a company, networking can really benefit your company because if you're in networking internally, you can be working across business units and creating collaborations and new innovation that way. And then if you're connecting externally, it could develop into different business opportunities for your company. It also keeps you kind of on that leading edge of like learning about the innovation that's out there so you can bring that back into your company. So I feel like it's such an important part of your career development. And then one thing we can think about as well, you know, a job is temporary. Matt touched on this a little bit. Your network is forever. And so just making sure that you keep that third pillar of network development in your career planning, and then utilizing all these venues that we have now to try and fulfill that.
Thank you, Christy. That was excellent advice. Matt?
You know, Christy's right. There's a Bureau of Labor Departments, a Bureau of Labor Statistics stat that says the average individual in the U.S. during their work years, which they define as 18 to 54, and I'm already outside of that window, will have 12.4 different jobs. So if you figure people start working before that and work beyond 54, they're going to have 15, 16, 17 jobs over the course of your work life. So this notion of this isn't the job you're going to be in for the rest of your life, maybe not the employer either, and you're going to have to constantly make those career progression decisions, your network plays a really, really important role in that. So if you keep that in the back of your mind. When it comes to online networking, I think one of the great advantages it offers is that it allows folks to be a lot more surgical in their approach, and a lot more, they can have a lot more tools at your disposal. You can do all of your research, and then you can have that very safe one-on-one conversation with someone that can be very intimidating in person, particularly for introverts. And you can have all of your questions lying down in front of you, in front of your computer, and all of your tools and resources, all of those crutches that are helping you get through that conversation. And you can do that. That makes the world much smaller too. The ability to then connect with someone who may be in another part of the world. The only thing you got to do is worry about getting up on time so you can talk to them during their workday, which might be 3 a.m. for you. But you can be there and you can connect with people that you can't connect with so readily in person. You do have to pay very close attention to the environment and what it projects. You might have seen my roommate down here, Henry, jump up onto his chair just a couple of moments ago. What I like about it, and I'm very intentional about my background and what it shows, because you're letting people into your world in ways we never could before we were all living off of Zoom screens for a while. We get a chance to become in that way a little bit more vulnerable and a little bit more human. You know, I'm a dog person. That might be a good point of conversation. Or you might see something on one of my shelves or my walls, which used to be the kind of thing you only got to do when you went into someone's office and you had that alternative or talking to them on the phone. So I think the online world opens up a lot more opportunities globally, but also allows you to confine and define the parameters of your engagement, but it means you have to manage those as well. I think the in-person world really allows you to be a lot more spontaneous. You can't be terribly spontaneous in your relationship building and your networking when you got to set up a Zoom meeting with somebody, or you're one of 50 people on a call and you're trying to see exactly what that person in the postage stamp size video screen actually looks like, and if they laughed at your joke or if they were just laughing at you, kind of a thing. Really, really hard. The spontaneous stuff that can happen live, which you can also control too. You walk into that big giant room, there might be tables. Sit down at one of those tables that got 3 or 4 people at the table, and this room of 400 just became a room of 5 or 6. And let that be what you're looking for right there. I think that just in-person connection has so many additional advantages that go beyond the virtual, but the virtual can get you to that point. Let's see, what's the third part? Oh, within your current organization. Look, every time you work with someone other than yourself, you are building and developing your network. And when you work with someone who's not on your team, you're building and developing your cross-functional network. And the more you know about what they do and the more they know about what you do, the more valuable you are as an asset to your team. Due to the nature of one of my roles here at Indeed, not the one I'm in right now, but in my previous role, part of my job was essentially to know what was going on across our business in all of the different areas, from product to marketing to research to HR to all of the different areas, because we were hosting clients and executives, and they had the opportunity to talk to anyone. So I had to have surface level knowledge of everything that was going on in the business. On my current team, someone needs to know who works for a different department or is working on a project, they just go ask Matt. Because chances are I know who it is, or I know someone who knows who it is, and I can get them that answer really, really quickly. Why? Because I've built and nurtured my professional network. It's why when I do go into the office, and I don't have to go in every day, we have a completely open office environment. No one has their own desk or any offices at all. You have seating, and you can sit at a desk or at an octagon or whatever it happens to be. I will always sit at a desk that is on a walkway where there's going to be a lot of traffic, because I benefit from those, what I'll call serendipitous conversations. People I don't have a need to schedule an appointment with, but when I see them, I remember what they do. We have a 5 or 10 minute conversation that benefits me, benefits them. And then the other 6 or 7 people who I didn't need to, I just wave to and walk by. And then I'm just the friendly guy there. Being present in the office can foster a lot of really great opportunities. And being a resource to your colleagues helps you advance and grow within your organization. And then you get paid attention to by leaders who want to become your mentor and want to take a special interest in your professional development. And so it can go like that. So I think there's great opportunities that can be had in each one of those, but I don't think anyone should use any of one to the exclusion of the other two. Build them all into your mix. Start with the ones that are most comfortable with you. As you develop your confidence in your skills, start incorporating more and more of this into your daily work life and into your professional relationship building.
Excellent, excellent advice. So I have another question for both of you all, and this has to do with how do you build your network? So, what are ways that we know we're all Trojans, and we know we can tap into the Trojan network and that, but what are some fast track ways that things that we can do tomorrow to help expand our network? Is it volunteering? Is it identifying professional association? What are some actionable items that we can do to kind of explode that networking piece? Is it going to lunch? Is it having
Christy, you want to jump in?
What does it look like?
Sure. I think it's one by one, right? Matt kind of mentioned it starts like a snowball. You meet one, you meet another. And so I think the things to do are those things you mentioned, right? Maybe volunteering, you can take a class, you can look up professional organizations. There's a ton of meetups out there. I have a list on LinkedIn that has all of LA and Orange County. So it's kind of one by one. I had a friend, he used to work at getting in front of 10 people he could help a week. He would say it in that way, right? Let me see if I can meet with 10 people a week and put myself in front of them and see how I can help them. And it blew up his network. It's one by one, and you just start going. Maybe set a goal for yourself. I'm going to meet 3 this week, maybe, one online, one in person, one at the office, and, start one by one.
Excellent advice, Christy. Matt, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think do get involved. If you're still in school right now, get involved in student clubs and organizations. If you are not, stay involved in your Trojan network, but always beyond the fact that they're Trojans, why else is it good for you to contact this person? Ask yourself that question, why? Well, they're also Trojan. Great, why else would I? Well, because they're working in a field that I want to work in. So there's a reason for that. And then when you get involved in these organizations, it's really easy to show up, sign up, pay for your lunch, and go home and never talk to anyone, and to never volunteer to be on a committee, and to just sort of show up. And nothing is going to happen other than the fact that you'll eat a lot of rubber chicken dinners at luncheons and hear some good speakers, and you wouldn't have developed your relationships at all. You have to get involved in some way that will fit into your life. If it's serving on a committee, if it's ultimately taking on a leadership role. Now that can be in a professional association, it can be in a community organization, it can be at your church, at your mosque, at your synagogue. It doesn't matter where. You have the opportunity to interact with people with whom you have shared interests. Make those connections and then discover how deep those shared interests go by talking about the work you need to do together, but about yourselves and each other as well. Get to know each other so that you'll have an opportunity to get vested in some of them, and some of them will have an opportunity to get vested in you. But to Christy's point about, setting goals, I really recommend folks, when they're looking for work or otherwise, start your Monday saying, what am I going to accomplish with the amount of time that I have to give to my job search this week? And let it be a stretch goal, but let it be something that you actually can achieve, so that at the end of the week, you can look yourself in the mirror again and say, did I accomplish what I said I was setting out to accomplish this week? And if you did, celebrate, because you need to celebrate those little victories of accomplishment along the way when you're looking for work. If you didn't, because life got in the way, which it often can, don't beat yourself up for not having missed those objectives, because legitimate things in life got in the way of you doing so. But if you didn't complete those things, and the only reason you didn't is because you got stuck binge watching Bad Sisters or whatever the latest Netflix or other binge-worthy show is, and you just got distracted, or you allowed yourself to be distracted, that's where you kick yourself in the butt and say, I got to step up and set new goals and do something for this next week. And every week recalibrate. That gives you a chance to be successful every week. And when you're in a longer job search, you need to recognize that success every single week.
And I know, thank you for that, Matt and Christy. And I know some of our Trojan family, they're entrepreneurs. You know, we'll be doing an event on December 1st that talks about preparing for career transition at 40 plus. And many times people are wanting to pivot. Maybe they've had 30 years of experience like you, Matt, and now they want to start their own consulting firm. Or I spoke with somebody earlier today who's been in a manager role, but now wants to be a VP and is trying to doesn't know VPs in this particular industry they're in and trying to figure that out. What advice would you give to people who maybe want to start their own business or move to the C-suite? Does their networking look different than for our students who are just starting their careers?
Want me to start? I'm happy to.
Yeah,
Or I'll defer you.
yes, if you
Sure.
like.
I think there's a lot of elements to that. If you're an entrepreneur or you're in any other kind of way starting your own business, your ability to develop your personal and professional network and be persuasive within that personal and professional network will be a key to your success. You can have the greatest idea in the world, but if nobody knows about it, nobody can buy it and nobody can fund it. So you're going to have to depend upon that just to develop out your ideas. I've often recommended to mid-career professionals, treat your job search like your own company, and the product you're selling is you. And what you should do is, first off, establish your board of directors, who are going to be those people who are going to guide you and offer you advice as you get ready to launch your product, which is this next version of you. You take a real strategic approach to it, the same way you would take to business when you're at the C-level in a business as well. Now, C-level politicking, because that's essentially what it is within large organizations, is not for the timid. Because if you want to move into the C-suite, you have to be ready to have C-suite level conversations and understand what diplomacy means at that level, and understand what communication means, and understand what brevity means, and understand how you need to come equipped with data to those kinds of conversations. Different conversations and different things are important at every level in the organization. And you have to understand what's important at that level of the organization to come across as credible in that world. So yeah, there's a lot of different dynamics when you're trying to start your own business and be an entrepreneur or enter into the C-suite.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Christy?
I think, as an entrepreneur, right, to build your business, to get funding, that is your power, right? You have to be able to network and build that, right? That's what people who are going to fund you are looking for, is that you can build those relationships. For the executive networking, I do find it to be a bit different than maybe someone coming out of school. There are a number of executive networks. It's almost getting exposed into that level of senior executives and start getting exposure in the arena, not just in your company, but in the bigger arena. And then I think a coach is, during career transitions that I've had and moving into more executive networking, having a coach that could an executive coach that could help me with some of that has been invaluable.
I love the fact that you brought that in. Sometimes you need to bring in the experts to take your career to the next level and all that. So I really appreciate you bringing up that point as well.
I'll suggest also
yes,
be careful what you wish for, because a lot of folks think it'd be great to be a director or to manage big teams of people, and they've never done it before, and all of a sudden they're doing it. They realize they don't like managing people or the dynamics of what it means, the politics at that level. And folks who have aspired to be in the C-suite and really didn't research it well enough and may have had a career that allowed them to get there and got there and realized this is a whole different ball game. So that networking that allows you to understand from people who are living in those worlds firsthand, whether or not that suits you. I've seen people who have been on the career ladder, which means they believe they have to keep climbing up regardless of how miserable it makes them, because it's successful when you're higher up. Well, is it successful when you're that high up and you hate what you're doing? People can get that high and love it too, but you got to know yourself and be able to say, does this world fit me as well as would I fit into this world?
Wow. You just dropped 10 pearls on us right there. That was wonderful, wonderful advice. And, the other piece I want to say about networking is I know when I was younger, I used to think networking was me trying to get into an organization, but it's also trying to figure out at the C-suite, what are your pain points? Or in this organization, what is the culture like? So we also need to network to see would we want that C-suite job, or would we want to even work in that organization? So that's another piece of networking that I think is really key. At this time, we have two really great resources that we wanted to demo for our Trojan family this evening. And so it's my pleasure to introduce, and thank you, Matt and Christy, for your sage advice and pearls of wisdom on networking. We're going to get back to some audience questions. So audience, please put your questions into the chat, and we'll take those in about 5 minutes. But at this time, it's my esteemed pleasure to introduce my wonderful colleague from the Dorrance School. She used to work at the Career Center with me as well, Lori DeSantis, who Lori is the Alumni Mentorship Program Coordinator at the USC Dorrance Career Pathways Office. She has previously served in roles with USC, Keck School of Medicine, the School of Pharmacy, and the USC Student Affairs Office, and the Career Center, my office. And she's an proud alumna of the USC Marshall School of Business. Please join me in giving a warm virtual Trojan welcome to my esteemed colleague, Lori, who will guide us through the Trojan Network and Career Shift. Lori?
Oh, you're on mute, Lori.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Sorry about that. Wonderful to be here today. We all know that the Trojan Network is lifelong and worldwide, but how do you find them? I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Here we go. This is the Trojan Network. It's accessible to all of you. It's free to use. It's for current students and alumni, and you access it through the Career Center website, or you can Google USC Trojan Network. Up here on the dashboard, you'll see there's a network. I'm going to start there. It's a really easy program to use. It's a gold mine. We'll wait for everyone to pop up here. Okay, so right here, I'm showing 13,839 people that I can access. You'll find current students and alumni. If there's a green dot next to their name, that means they're online right now, and I can actually live chat with them. What I want to do is click on this person, and I'm going to show you what I can find out about this person. Right away, I can see that he graduated in 1993. I can tell where he's living, and I can tell one of the things he's willing to do. One of the good things about the Trojan Network is that these people signed up and already said yes. So when you contact them, they want to work with you. It's not going to be awkward. It's not going to be like, hi, how are you? I want to meet you. They already said yes. If you go down here, you can learn about them. You can find out about them. Sometimes they pull this in from their LinkedIn profile. You can find their career journey. You can find out, wow, this one's long. Okay, you can find out where they went to school. And then down here, you can find out what they're willing to help you with, what industries they have experience in, and what communities they were part of while they were a Trojan. So right away, I know I'm interested in connecting with this person. I can either chat now here, or I can message him. So if I want to message this person, I'm going to click here. So here I am. I have his bio over here on the left to remind me what he's all about, but I'm not sure where to start. Right away at the top, we have templates to help you get started. Career exploration, expand my network, or reconnect. I can even request a meeting with this person on here, and I can do that meeting. It can be an in-person meeting. It can be a virtual meeting, whatever you want it to be. So this is going to reach out to that person directly. You can also sort here. So with filters, you can sort by school. You can find all the schools at USC here. You can sort by industry, by major, by company, by club, all these different ways. It's a very easy program to use. I have limited time, so I'm going to go ahead and jump from here into Career Shift. Career Shift is also a goldmine. This is the first place you want to start when you're beginning your career journey. It's going to help you with jobs, contacts, exploring companies, storing your resumes here. This is your communication campaign, calendaring, and so on. Let's go ahead and jump into jobs. So if I want to do a job search and I'm on Career Shift, this is going to help me. I can look on here. It's going to pull from Indeed and other job search platforms. It's also going to pull from company websites. So I can go in here and type in a keyword or a company name. Let's say I want to work in healthcare, but I don't want to look at nursing jobs. It can get that specific. I typed in healthcare, no nursing. It's going to give me all the jobs in healthcare, but eliminate the nursing job. You can do that with any industry. It's also going to help you manage. So it's going to save jobs that you want to look at again later. Maybe you want to save them for now and apply later. If I do want to apply to a job, I'm on job search. I type in Los Angeles. Actually, let's type in Disney. I see emergency preparedness coordinator. Click on it. Takes me right to the site to apply to the job. If I want to maybe find a contact, let's look at how to find a connection at that company. We go into contacts, we go into search. We can type in University of Southern California, find out everyone that went to USC that works at a particular company. This is invaluable. It's going to tell me that Cindy, who works at the Walt Disney Company, I have her actual email address here. I have her telephone number here. I have her LinkedIn here. She works in the hospitality field. I can save this right here and save it into my folder, or I can contact her right now and email her. It's also going to help you keep track of your resumes and documents, your campaigns. This is who you reached out to. You can do a bulk email here to everyone that works at Disney and hospitality. It's incredible. This is the first place you want to go to begin your job search. It's going to help you manage all of your open applications, and it's going to help you find new contacts and all the available jobs. I know we're going to be taking time for questions for right now. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lori. We appreciate that. Yeah, I call the trifecta for networking the USC LinkedIn alumni page, which has 333,000 alumni in it. The Trojan Network, which has 14,000 alumni who volunteered to help our alumni and students with networking and giving them information on careers. And then we have Career Shift, which is I call the game changer, where we actually get the actual emails of people that work at those companies, and we get the formulas, and using the three of them in tandem is very powerful. So we hope you use all three of those as you're building your network and making those important connections. So we have a question, Matt and Christy, and the first question is, what tips or practices do you recommend for using body language to network and make a positive impression? And we'll start with Christy.
I think you can never go wrong with a smile. It puts people at ease. And when I try and actively listen, right, like being aware of what my facial expression is, that I'm, kind of leaning forward towards them, that I'm appearing interested in what they're saying, because there's nothing like talking to someone who's like, that kills the conversation. So I would say anything positive, mimicking their gestures, starting with a smile, listening well, leaning towards them. I think those are all very welcoming.
Good stuff. Well, it's all very important. I mean, that the smile is immediately important. A good solid handshake. That old notion you never get a second chance to make a first impression is a true statement. And you want to come in comfortable. You might, before you walk into the room, step outside and do a good old power pose where you stand up, take a deep breath, if that's just going to get you back into it. That notion of leaning in when you're listening, and I just leaned in right now, shows that you're interested. Maintain eye contact where you can. Don't be creepy. Don't just stare at them, but naturally try and maintain eye contact with them. And if you're talking to different people, direct the conversation to them. Maybe you're on a panel discussion of some kind and they're actually all in the room and someone asks a great question. Start with them, but then bring it back to the rest of the group so that they don't feel left out. If you talk with your hands like I do, be cautious about not doing it too much. Have a place to put them down. If you need to, have a prop that's in your hand so that you're not tugging at your hair or fidgeting. We all have our various nervous habits that we go into when we're not sure. Know yours, own them, and do your best to protect yourself from them when you're in an interview. Control your entire environment. If I were in a job interview, I'd have a dark background on or a virtual background on or something other than Henry sitting behind me in that interview because I want to control that. I might tell my roommate or my parents or my spouse or whomever to go away and leave me alone and quiet so that I can focus on that and keep my attention on that meeting and where it needs to be. I know this is the 21st century and that we don't write very many things any longer, and we often use our phones to do everything, even take notes. If that's you, ask first and let them know that's what you're doing, because if you don't, they think you're distracted because you're looking on the phone and scrolling through TikTok or Twitter or who knows. They're going to assume the worst unless you say, I use this to take notes. Do you mind? Great. Now they know what you're doing, but you can't get engrossed in that like you might if you're on the metro trying to get home. You need to stay back engaged with them when you're having that conversation. Oh, there's so many different things that you can do just to stay engaged in the conversation, because that shows interest and respect. And that's really what your body language is intent to do. And I know that doesn't come naturally to some people. Some people get nervous and they get all clammy and they just cross their arms, which makes you look like you're not listening any longer. So there are a lot of different ways that body language can help you in that process. And it starts, though, with that smile and a good handshake to get you and whomever you're meeting with comfortable.
Excellent, excellent advice. And we know a smile is the universal language, whether you're in another country or whatever. A smile can take you far in life. So that was fabulous advice. We've got about a minute left. So we have another few questions in the chat right now. Another one that just came in was, do you have a preferred avenue of networking? And I think they're looking for specific resources. The question is LinkedIn or something else? And we'll start with Christy.
I personally do it through different meetups. I have my meetup and other meetups within the city and kind of across the county, Southern California in general. I try and connect in a lot of those venues. I use LinkedIn as my CRM, as my follow-up tool. I write all, the notes and things there so that I can keep a register of who I contacted and when and those types of things. But I don't spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, and I actually don't recommend when people are looking for a job, 70% of all jobs are found through networking as opposed to applying online. So it's tempting and it feels very satisfying to push the button and apply, but many times nothing will happen to that position. And it's much better time spent to focus on connecting and networking with people. That's where you will find a job most likely.
Thank you, Christy. Matt, really quick.
Yeah, you're right. Using LinkedIn as a job board is a misuse of LinkedIn as a resource. It can be a tremendous resource, a great research resource and connection resource. But if your primary use is to see what jobs that are there, apply and pray someone responds, you're wasting your time and your investment on LinkedIn. I go back to this notion. I like these old sayings, birds of a feather flock together, find your flock. I work in a variety of different groups. LinkedIn has always been a hub for me since probably about 3 months after it first launched, and a buddy of mine said, you need to get on this thing. But at different times in my life, I've been in the briefing management world. I was a member of the American Briefing Management, ABPM, American Briefing Planners Association. I've been an active member of the National Association of Colleges and Employers. And I know that y'all are familiar with that one in the career services world, because that's where people who work in career services and recruiting students. I've been active in my local SHRM chapters in the past, because a lot of the work that I do has been in human resources. I have at times been active in the Public Relations Society of America and the local Austin Chamber of Commerce based upon what my business needs were, because my business needs were driving my relationship building needs, which was the whole purpose of my networking. So ultimately, find your flock and then flock together with the birds like you.
Wow, thank you so much, Christy and Matt. You all gave so much sage advice. I think on the find your flock, we'll stop right there at 6:01. I want to thank Matt Berndt and Christy Connor and Lori DeSantis for sharing their evening with us this evening, talking about taking the anxiety out of networking. And we know Trojans love to network and we can all improve on it. And I just want to say what we'll all say. All three of us, all four of us, we're going to say, fight on, Trojans.
Fight on,
Fight on,
Trojans.
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 Thanks.
And beat the Buffaloes.
Beat the Buffaloes this Saturday. Take care. Good evening.